Okay, welcome everybody to the Laird Superfood Business Breakdowns. Before we get started, I want to remind all participants the purpose of this presentation is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as a recommendation to purchase or sell any security. Microcap Club is not a registered investment advisor. Microcap Club, its partners, members, subscribers, and affiliates may or may not hold positions in one or more of the securities mentioned on this program and may trade in such securities at any time. Do your own due diligence and seek counsel from a registered investment advisor before trading in any security. I want to thank the Microcap Club community for tuning into this Business Breakdowns conversations with Laird Superfood, President and CEO Jason Veith, along with CFO Anya Hamill. Welcome to you both. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
My tag team partner for this Business Breakdowns is Olivier Colombo. Olivier is a private investor from Switzerland with over 20 years of investing experience, 14 of which took place working with large investment banks. If you're interested in learning more about Olivier, we will put a link in the show notes to his work. Olivier, it's an honor to have you on this Business Breakdowns as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Adam. I'm very excited to the story today.
The business we're breaking down, as mentioned, is Laird Superfood, which trades on the NYSE under the symbol LSF. Laird was originally profiled in 2024 by Olivier. Laird Superfood is an emerging consumer products platform focused on manufacturing and marketing highly differentiated plant-based and functional foods. The Laird Superfood brand is increasingly recognized and trusted by a growing number of consumers. The core pillars of the Laird Superfood platform are currently Superfood Creamer coffee creamers, Hydrate hydration products and beverage enhancing supplements, and roasted and instant coffees, teas, and hot chocolate. All products are plant-based, clean, with functional ingredients that are on trend with consumers. Laird Superfood was founded in 2015 by friends and surfing partners, Laird Hamilton and Paul Hodge. Laird Superfood's long-term goal is to build the first scale-level and widely recognized brand that authentically focuses on natural ingredients, nutritional density, and functionality. They believe an authentic and trusted brand is the strongest barrier to entry and a sustainable source of differentiation in the CPG industry. So before we get into the presentation, Jason, you've had a really interesting career up to this point, from MBA to management consulting to big CPG. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how you arrived here and what your experience has been like at Laird over the past few years.
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Adam, you froze a little bit as you were asking that question, but I think I got the gist of it. Just redirect me if not. First, let me just say, really pleased to be here and have the opportunity to share this story. We are incredibly excited about this business and what has been built here already, but even more so for the future, and really happy to be able to share that today. So a little bit about my background. I came to Laird Superfood just a little bit over 3 years ago. Most recent to that experience, I had been at Sobos Brands, where we put together a few different business platforms, acquisitions that we made, including Rayo's Pasta, Noosa Yogurt, and a couple of other brands and companies. We built a platform, IPO'd it, and then subsequently sold it to Campbell's Food Company. That was something I had done previously. A lot of why I was there was because we had done the same thing with White Wave Foods years before, putting together a disparate group of companies that ultimately became brands within the White Wave portfolio, which we built up to a little bit over $4 billion in sales before selling it to Danone. In between, I did a couple of things. I was at the Lifetime Fitness Foods Company, Lifetime Fitness Company, running the food business. There, I put together a new concept, a new food concept, and rolled it out across the fitness facilities, of which there were approximately 150 when I left. We're opening new stores at the rate of about one per month while revamping that food platform. And really, across all those companies, if you think about the thread that tied them together, and included also the launch of the Poppy soda brand, where I was CEO for the first year of its inception. All of those foods and all those products are really health and wellness and fitness and nutrition oriented. And that's something that's really important to me, important in my own life, important in my family's life. And I think it's something that I've been able to share over the last 15 years with the broader community. So when the opportunity opened up at Laird Superfood a few years ago, despite some daunting financial challenges that I knew were in front of us and some that I didn't know, quite frankly, that we can talk about as well. I think the opportunity was incredibly compelling to me because here we have this incredible health and wellness and fitness and nutrition-oriented brand that's led and conceived by Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese, who are two people really at the epicenter of all of those movements. And so the opportunity was just too incredible to pass up. And I'm sure we'll talk more over the course of this discussion about what we've done while we've been here. But it's been just an extraordinary opportunity to share back all of those platforms with this incredible food to a broad consumer base across the US and hopefully even further as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's perfect. So with that, I'd like to pass the mic to management to go through their presentation. As a reminder to listeners, feel free to post your questions in the Q&A box by clicking on the bottom of the screen. And Jason and Anya, the floor is yours.
Well, that's great. Let me start. Let me let Anya introduce herself, Adam. So just to share a little bit about who she is and why she's here, and then we'll start telling you a little bit about the brand and company.
Right. Thank you, Jason. I'm Anya Hamill. Good morning again, everybody. I am also celebrating my 3-year anniversary with Laird Superfood here in April. Prior to that, I spent almost my entire career in CPG brands and finance and accounting roles, most notably with White Wave Foods for a decade and a half. That's where Jason and I overlapped in the past, working on different brands in different roles. And my most notable role there was head of finance for their plant-based divisions, about 600 million in size. By the time I left, you may know brands like Silk and So Delicious that were part of that plant-based division. And then shortly after the Danone acquisition, I moved back to kind of startup environment, private equity backed environment to grow brands and build teams. So I was CFO at Little Secrets Chocolates, which is natural confections company. I did that for about 3 years before coming to Laird, and very grateful for the opportunity to be here and excited about our future.
It's great, Anya. Thank you. I'm sure we'll get into more of that as we go as well. And certainly on the management team, I'll talk to some of that. So, sorry, guys, getting a request to start, of course, a request to restart my computer right now. So hopefully we can hold that off. If not, I'll walk around the table and join Anya on the other side. So a little bit about the brand and then the company. So the company was founded about 10 years ago. So you'll see us celebrating our 10-year anniversary later this summer and leveraging that across a number of events to really celebrate what's been a remarkable 10 years. The company was founded by, as Adam mentioned, Laird Hamilton, also his wife, Gabby Reese, and then there was a third person as well, Paul Hodge, who served as the first CEO of the company and helped to take the company public before Anya and I joined a few years ago. Laird is best known for surfing. That's really where he got his start. But since then, a lot of his time has been spent innovating around that surfing space. You know, he really invented toe-in surfing back at Maui on Jaws, created a new way to really elevate the sport and take it to extremes, which has been a little bit of Laird's life work in general. But he also, if you know golf boards, he was the founder of that little board that you can ride around, almost a skateboard with a pole. You see it on golf courses across the country. He was one of the originators, really taking the ancient Hawaiian traditions of paddling, surfing, and making that a real sport. And then across a number of years, really just continued to build and become more of a waterman and known across a number of different water-based sports. So that he really expanded his own repertoire. And has been, as mentioned here, an author, a fitness and nutrition expert, and most importantly, husband and father to his family. His wife, Gabby, who's partner here on this business, both of these two, by the way, incredibly engaged. We'll talk more about that as we go, but incredibly engaged in the business. And his wife, Gabby, is not only his partner at home with family, but is his partner in this business and has been throughout. Gabby is an incredible influencer within the health and wellness and fitness space. She's a podcast host. She's also an author. Maybe she's a best-selling author, so might have even a mark above Laird on that one. She is, of course, a former volleyball player and model, and they're just two incredible partners to us. And as I mentioned, this entire business is built off of a base or foundation within health, wellness, fitness, and nutrition that Laird and Gabby live every day. They live it as authentically as anyone in the country or the world. And for us, and for me, as I was screening this and looking at Laird Superfood as an opportunity, really understanding and appreciating that authenticity was core to my decision to join here, because you can't really build a house on a shaky foundation. And if they weren't as authentic as they were purported to be, and as I came to understand that they are, I'd be really concerned. We have no concern ever about them appearing in any kind of headline news in a negative way, or any kind of scandalous manner. And so in terms of founders that you can work with, kindest, nicest, most driven people, but also the most authentic and wonderful. And so just really, really a great base for us and for our business as we started this. So Anya, if you go to the next slide, you're in control of slides, and I'll have you just kind of keep along. Our strategy, I mentioned I'd been at White Wave Foods for about a decade. While there, I was running strategy and then business development and M&A and innovation, and then eventually put together and international, and then eventually put together a yogurt platform and went to run that and became a general manager and left that behind. But the core for me, my core skill coming into that White Wave Food business and what I had done at BCG in particular, Boston Consulting Group, is in building strategies. And so we have been running a strategic playbook very similar to what we outlined back in the early days of White Wave Foods. And you can really see the 5 pillars here. The most important pillar for us right now is the blocking and tackling, gaining more distribution, increasing awareness of our brand, driving trial. And that's really covered in that first strategy around growing our core business. At the same time, innovation is critical in any of these size companies, really any company in general. And this is one that's really important to us as well. We have near-in product line expansion type of innovation, but we also have expansion that goes, what we would say called 2-step plus adjacencies, where we move not only into a new product line within the existing brand, but actually move it out into, say, a new geography or a new food space, such as food service, which you've heard us call out as a key initiative for us recently, and expanded into new categories. We expanded into bars just a couple of years ago, and that's been a real highlight for us. Green's product was new. And we have, as we've mentioned, an RTD product in development right now. We see incredible opportunity to hold on to that core essence of what the brand is, but to expand it out into new spaces. And we'll do that as we continue to grow that core. Improving the supply chain, really, really incredibly important to us. In this business, we have quite a lot of international ingredients. We will see how much tariff exposure we have as we come to understand later today and beyond. But so far, we've not been impacted, or not impacted in any way that we couldn't mitigate. In fact, couldn't improve our supply chain with. At the same time, this has been a critical platform to us over the last couple of years, critical improvement platform to us over the last couple of years, where we've in-housed the sourcing of several of our ingredients, shut down our own manufacturing up in Oregon, and moved it to an asset-light model that we base out here west on major distribution routes. Really ripped out a significant amount of cost and improved our gross margins from what was effectively under 20% to over 40% last year. Building critical capabilities and improving work processes is also very important. When I came in a couple of years ago, just to kind of run the rough numbers. I came in, we were about $35 million of net sales. We were losing around $24 million. We had approximately $16 million of marketing and $16 million of G&A. Everything's been reinvented. I mentioned what we did on the cost side to drive gross margins, but at the same time, we took out over 2/3 of our marketing by building a more efficient model that leveraged Laird and Gabby, their lifestyle, and really brought that front and center, and it changed how and where we were marketing. It's become more effective, not only more effective, but it's helping us grow the business, so more effective and more efficient. But that critical capability work process box that you see there under strategy 4 has also been incredibly important to us. We've gone from over 140 employees at the company to under 30 over the course of the last couple of years. only about half of those were manufacturing. So we've taken out 40 G&A oriented jobs as well. So when you think about the improvements, the amount of work that we're flowing through a smaller number of people, it's really important that those capabilities and those work processes are established appropriately. So we put a lot of time here. We have an incredible team I'll go into more detail on, but an incredible team of executives and their teams that support them that are all carrying just an increased workload per person because we really hired the right people. And then the last point, this is really more the scoreboard that comes out of the last four, improving the P&L and accelerating that path to profitability. Those activities up above really drive the results of number 5, but we have just a real ownership mindset that we've implemented into the company to every employee so that everyone's operating like an owner and making financial decisions as though it's their company and their kids relying on it to be able to go to college. So that's something that I think is really unique and different here versus what we've seen in other companies. I mentioned our team. So you've heard about Anya, myself. I'll just say Anya and I have been together now. It's been probably 13 years or so across a couple of companies that we've worked together. Great relationship, working relationship between the two of us, and just really, at this point, very comfortable in knowing where each other are, communication-wise, operationally, et cetera. So just wonderful partnership, and I'm super appreciative of Anya. I also have Gil Arvizu hired on. Gil came to work for me at WhiteWave, ran a big portion of that international business that I mentioned that I'd spun up while I was there. He ran, I think it was probably $75 million by the time that he and I were done working together of startup international, primarily in Central and South America. Gil was a phenomenal leader at Cott Beverage years before. I plucked him after he had been in Mexico for a bit and had him running that business for me for probably 5 years at WhiteWave. And when I had the opportunity to bring him back here, grabbed him, and he's just been a tremendous game changer for us particularly the retail sales space. Jared Larkin, actually, let me skip Jared for a moment. Martha Opella also worked for me back at WhiteWave. At the time, she was a young brand manager. She's now a seasoned marketing executive for us, which is what happens over the course of more than 10 years. Martha left WhiteWave shortly after the acquisition as well and went over to Charlotte's Web, which is a leader within the CBD space, became marketing director there, and came back to work for us a couple of years ago as one of the leaders in the marketing division and just really accelerated our model, grew herself and put herself in a position to become on the executive team. She's a phenomenal asset to our business as well. Came back to Jared. I wanted to cover all the WhiteWave connections and the time that I've spent with those folks. Jared is the only executive on the team that came with the acquisition. Jared actually came with the Picky Bar acquisition. I would say he's one of the best supply chain leaders. Just an incredible can-do attitude, great people leader, and has really been innovative and creative in figuring out how to cut costs out of our business. Jared and I have only been together for a couple of years, but I would say that I have a relationship with him that's on par with everybody else in this executive team. And it really is just a team that's gelled together. It's been through, been in the trenches, been through the war a bit with some of the big issues that we had to turn around in this business in a rapid fashion. And I couldn't be more proud of Bill here. The portfolio, in terms of portfolio, I'll just say we're playing in very big categories. Plant-based coffee creamers. This is, at this point now, about a $9 billion category. I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's largely built out of the liquid creamer space. There is a reinvention opportunity, and it's really just started to begin with pushing that into the powder creamer space, the shelf-stable powder creamer space, where you can shelve the powders over next to the coffee, which is itself a $28 billion category. These are retail sizings, not including food service, just enormous categories. And so we have obviously the shelf stable as well as the liquid creamers over in the plant-based creamer space. In coffee, we're largely a functional add coffee. We're moving that to be completely functional add, where we put the mushrooms into the coffee. We are not a mushroom coffee. We are a mushroom as an enhancement to coffee. So you get all the benefits of coffee, the taste of coffee, with the functional ingredients of the adaptogenic mushrooms as well. and having great success in that space right now. Instant lattes is a large and growing space as well. Protein bars and functional beverages. Functional beverages, we're really just playing the greens and the hydration spaces right now. I think those are two areas where we continue to have significant opportunity ahead of us. As folks have pointed out in the past, really just scratching the surface and see just an incredible opportunity to grow that portion of the portfolio as well. A little bit about our performance. So Q4, I'll just say to give you a flavor of what's been happening. We are transitioning the business from an e-com led business to a more balanced e-com and wholesale business. And you can see that with our wholesale growth, up 52% in Q4. You'll see numbers like that as we go forward for quite some time. There is so much distribution white space on these products. In the SPINS world, we have done a great job of penetrating a couple of accounts, but there are other large accounts like Whole Foods where we really have only scratched the surface. And then in MULO or over in that conventional space, it's called MULO, there really hasn't been much done. And we're tiptoeing, as I've mentioned, tiptoeing into that space, being cautious because it's an expensive place to play. It's highly competitive, and it's hard to grow and nurture a brand there. So the success that I've seen from my experience is largely, if you look at the companies that have done well, that have built into that space, typically, if you're not one of the big CPGs extending a brand, what you do is you go build in the independent and natural space, get that brand awareness, generate the interest from the big retailers, and then start to port your business over into that conventional space. And that's the playbook that we're running. But obviously to great effect already when you see 52% growth in the quarter. E-com, very strong as well. E-com, what's happening in e-com is more Amazon, less DTC. And that's the playbook, frankly, that we're running and we expect to run. It's just Amazon is a big marketplace where everybody goes to shop. Your products can be delivered the next day and it can be done efficiently. And you can buy all your products and bundle them together and have them all show up. So we know Amazon's going to continue to win. But on the DTC side, we've really built that out as a platform or a hub of information and wellness support for our consumers. We give the broadest portfolio of products, and we really push subscription as the model so that you get folks coming in, clicking, buying. They don't have to think about it again. The products just start to arrive there, but they're able to come back and learn and grow their knowledge base on all those same elements that I mentioned before with health and wellness, nutrition, and fitness. And we're seeing a great response on that. A business that was in free fall when I got here on the e-com side is stabilized and then moved back to growth over the period of the last year. And so we're really pleased with where that is. But over time, you're going to see a bigger wholesale business, a bigger Amazon business. And that just makes sense for us and frankly, for all food companies. I mentioned a little bit about this. The important piece I would say, the typical playbook in CPG is you come in, you see that there are, you're at 35 million. This is 3 years ago. You're $35 million of sales and you have 100 SKUs. And you say, wow, run that Bain profit from the core strategy. Find the 20% that are driving 80% of your sales and get rid of everything else. And we did that for a moment, just for a second. And we realized when you start taking products out, because Laird Superfood is truly, this health and wellness brand across where the brand is haloing back those attributes back to a broader portfolio. Consumers come in and if they're buying the creamer, they like the coffee. And then if they're buying the creamer to go with the coffee, well, maybe I'll try your bars. And so when you start taking out some of those smaller products, you make people think about their overall subscription, their overall subscriptions rather, and they start canceling and just going to Amazon and buying there or shopping at the grocery, and then you're back in a very competitive market. So what we realized is we would be better off not to shut down those products, but to run them, literally operationalize them so that it is literally a widget on a screen people can click and a pallet position in a warehouse that's filled by a third party, so it's only variable cost when products are sold. Make sure you have your inventories right and minimize the number of unique ingredients in the portfolio. And in doing that, you hold on to more customers and obviously more sales as a result. And so we've really built this model to have a very wide breadth of products at the DTC level that can stand alone from a profitability perspective, makes sense to be in the portfolio. And then we start narrowing that down as you move your way from top to bottom in this chart. So at Amazon, where they have micro DCs that you have to resupply, we narrow down the portfolio by about 30% versus DTC. Come down to natural, where I think Sprouts is carrying about 40 of our items now. That's the maximum number of products that you offer to the natural channel. Get to conventional grocery or MULO, which I said earlier is very expensive as a place to play. So you narrow it down again to get to club, where at this point we have one item that we're rotating through pretty regularly and other items that we're testing. And by doing that, you're able to maintain profitability across those various channels in a way that, frankly, big CPGs can't wrap their head around. There's too much complexity for them. But for us, and the way that we built our systems, we've been able to operationalize very effectively. Our consumer target, not surprisingly, the brand started with Laird and Gabby, their friends, family, people on the West Coast. They're very health and wellness oriented, maybe in the surfer community. That's how the brand started. And then it continued to build out in concentric circles since then. And we're still operating, I would say, very largely in that health enthusiast space. There's the health curious, which are starting to dabble and play into some of the products. And we see, I think, a lot of the growth that we had in the last year is coming from people that are hearing about it on a podcast, hearing about Laird Superfood on a podcast, or following this Maha trend and saying, what else should I be, reconsidering in my diet? Oh, I heard these plant-based creamers that go into coffee are full of hydrogenated seed oils and sugar and chemicals. Maybe I try something else. So we're starting to move our way from that health enthusiast kind of close to the core consumer into the curious folks, which are a much larger group. These are obviously not indicating the size of prize. That health curious is a very big, expansive space, obviously harder to target your marketing. So we're being selective with how we're moving into that. But the enthusiasts very much understand us, what we, and I'll come back to that. They understand us, what we represent, and how we fit into their portfolio. But there's a geographical break in that too. We are much more, I would say, even more than west of Mississippi. It's kind of west of Denver. So Denver is the line of demarcation, maybe kind of curves down into Dallas and Austin, and then west. As you move further east, there's a drop off in the awareness and understanding of our products. And we're starting to address that. Florida's become a nice market for us. The Northeast, as you would expect, has quite a lot of folks that are in this community. This community fits, any part of any city across the Midwest. And as we go forward, we'll continue to target those pockets as we feel the ROI justifies. Our 25 marketing will focus on benefit and taste. That's what we are. Food has to taste good, no doubt about it. We feel like we really do taste good. We don't necessarily taste good to people that are used to consuming a lot of sugar. They try our product and they say, "Wow, no, I don't understand it." For folks that have come down that path and have started to move already into a health and wellness and natural food, whole food diet, we taste great because that's what we are. When you turn over the pack of any of our products, all the ingredients. And usually it's very few ingredients. Only the greens has a list of more than maybe 7 or 8 ingredients. Our top product has 2 ingredients. It has coconut milk powder and coconut sugar. And that's a really important piece too. Sourcing of those ingredients is incredibly important to us. If you only have 2 ingredients on the pack, you're not going to be differentiated if you're not putting the best 2 of those ingredients into your pack. And so sourcing has become a critical part of our business over the last couple of years. We know where all those products or all those ingredients are coming from. We get out to those farms overseas. We get out to those processors overseas. We're very careful with our specs, and we monitor the quality very closely. And you see that in our marketing. We will be celebrating those, and we already are celebrating those attributes, largely through Laird and Gabby. They are the faces and the mouths of our brand. And we're just incredibly fortunate to have highly engaged, authentic founders that are truly experts in this space. And so that's really who we leverage and will continue to do as we go forward. Retail growth, we touched on this a bit, but you see the acceleration. This is year over year. If you look at the dark blue to the green to the light blue, it's a really unbelievable chart. There's been an improvement sequentially each month of each year across the last 3 years. And not many businesses can do that without any kind of blip in there. The incredible thing for us is that includes a quality event that we had where we had inherited some coconut milk powder supply from the last regime. that unfortunately had gone through a third-party distributor and was not to the standard that we required from a taste perspective. We pulled all that product out. We replaced that product. There was a 6-week lag in there. That's in this data. The other thing that's incredible in this data is we've been dealing with out of stocks, as we mentioned in Q4, which I think we've managed really well. But at the same time, you wouldn't expect to see this kind of growth month out over month, year over year, and accelerating, as you can see from the change in 23 to the change in 24. So really proud of this, and I think it speaks to where we're going to be able to go as we go forward. 19% growth from wholesale across the year, as we said, accelerating in Q4. I don't think we need to go into any more detail on this, but you can see some of the retailers over on the right-hand side that have really, and what you see, these are the retailers that have really invested in us and that we're investing into. What you see are all the largest natural and independents in that SPINS world, as it's called, but that natural food world, as well as a couple of the conventionals that typically lean in and lead in their space. So you see Wegmans, you see Target, you see Costco, Kroger with a couple of their banners out west, H-E-B with Central Market. So the conventionals that really are at the forefront of health and wellness and natural and whole food, with even if it's only some of their banners, have been leaning in and starting to bring Laird on. And so that's kind of the path forward for us, as I mentioned. At the same time, 32% growth from e-com over that period. Q4, obviously the laggard in there. We started to have the out of stocks issue that really hit the DTC business in particular, but then Amazon also got hit pretty hard right around Black Friday. We think that on the Amazon side, the growth will be restored very quickly. We're very confident of that. There's pent up demand on that side. And in fact, on the DTC side, we feel the same. DTC will never grow like Amazon as we go forward, or we don't expect it to at least. We're pleasantly surprised by the growth that we had last year. But if that business just kind of stays flat over the next year, serves as an education hub, helps introduce people to the brand and lets them shop wherever they shop, whether that's at Amazon, in wholesale retailers, or on the site, we're very happy for it to just kind of sit there while we grow the other channels. All right, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Actually, you know what, I'll let Anya, she promises to be fast, jump in and share a little bit of the 24 financial performance as well.
Okay. Last year was all about growth, top line growth. For the full year, we achieved 27%, which is a very high mark for a food company. As Jason mentioned before, e-commerce made up about 60% of our business, and wholesale was about 40% of the total. And you can expect wholesale to outpace the growth of e-commerce in the future and become more 50-50 channel mix, and perhaps even surpass e-commerce down the road. You can see how we're steady growth in net sales. This is a quarterly growth over 2023 from last year. The other thing I want to point out here, notice the marketing investment. We actually reinvented our go-to-market strategy and marketing approach, and we were able to pull back marketing as % of net sales spent while growing the top line and really increasing efficiencies. In 2023, our marketing investment was averaging about 20% of net sales. And then last year, we were able to leverage that to mid-teens.
And that, I'll just say, that was already a significant improvement from 22, which was in 21, which were probably closer to 40% marketing. So we've really been able to streamline that business. And over time, we think that we get it down to 10% or less, over the course of the next couple of years as well.
Gross margin is another area where we did a lot of work last year and the year before, and we're proud to achieve remarkable results. As Jason mentioned, historically, the business was running about 20% gross margins. In 2023, we achieved 30%, and that was really a transformational year where we outsourced our internal manufacturing to co-packers and moved to variable cost model. And then we further improved that by 10 basis points to 41% gross margin last year, primarily through continuing to drive efficiencies in supply chain shifting our procurement to direct procurement of key raw materials, and also optimizing our trade spend across all channels. As you can see, that is best in class, as what we call it, margins in CPG businesses. There's some other names on the slide that all below what we achieved last year at 41% margin. And our guidance is that we're going to hold in high 30s to 40% margin next year and long term as well. Adjusted EBITDA. So the business historically generated substantial losses, and our goal was to push for break even on adjusted EBITDA basis, which is really net income and adding back our stock-based comp and depreciation and amortization expenses. It's the best proxy for cash performance. And so you can see the progress we've made last year, really approaching that break even and moving into positive zone on EBITDA. Cash flow, which of course closely goes with EBITDA, is last year was the first time in the company history where we generated positive cash flow. We improved our cash balance by $800,000, and we exited the year with $8.5 million in cash and no debt. That slide just speaks to that. Okay, and now our outlook for 2025 for this year. So the guidance that was shared with the market actually in Q4 of last year, and then we reaffirmed it in our most recent call in March. Top line, we expect top line to grow 20 to 25% in net sales. We expect to maintain our gross margin in high 30s, and our goal is to achieve break even on EBITDA basis. And operating cash flow, we said it's going to be $1 to $2 million investment into our working capital, primarily inventory, in order to maintain high top line growth of 20 to 25%. Just to run you through our capital structure, so insider ownership, you can see in the pie chart here on the left, is about 17%. And then Danone also has a stake of about 8%. And the rest, 75%, is institutional and retail investors. We have about 10.3 million in outstanding shares, and this is as of the end of the year, December 31st of 2024. As I mentioned, we exited the year with 8.5 million in cash and no debt. Although we do have access to a line of credit up to 2 million, we have not used it in the past. Our share price, this is average for Q1, was about $6, and our current market capitalization is just under 17 million. We have two analysts, two firms that cover us, it's Craig-Hallum, as well as Growth Capital. They both maintain buy rating on our stock, and our target price for our stock is $12 to $14. Representing quite a bit of upside from where it's trading right now. Some key metrics that we hold ourselves accountable to, really operating with excellence. Cost of goods sold as percent of gross sales. Why it's percent of gross sales is that we exclude impact of trade to truly manage our supply chain performance. So you can see steady improvement over the years. Where in 2022, it was 70% of our gross sales, and then it was down 18 points. This is a reduction, is a good metric here. You want to move it in that direction. We were just about 50% on COGS as percent of gross sales. Marketing, we already touched base on this. Marketing started at about 30% of net sales, which was quite honestly not a sustainable model. And we reduced it down to 15, and we're going to continue, as Jason mentioned, to further drive efficiency and leverage our marketing as percent of top line. We did a lot of work to cut back on unnecessary G&A expenses, and we brought this down by 1.8 points from 2022, and we continue driving cost savings in that line as well. And that is all prepared remarks that we have for you today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That was really comprehensive. We really appreciate you going through that. I think it's a good point to launch the Q&A. So again, as a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to click on the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So yeah, I'd love to maybe start by asking kind of the obvious low-hanging fruit question up front. Can you talk a little bit about how you think you'd fare in a recession or economic downturn? And maybe you can touch on where you think you sit on sort of the pricing spectrum relative to comparable products or your peers, et cetera.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It's a great question, one that we've talked internally about quite a lot. We went through this back at White Wave. It was, I would say, my first run through being in, having premium products going into a recession, and that happened back in the 2008, 2009 period. We prepared for a downturn in our sales, and we saw the opposite. And the reason we saw, as we came to understand and did, our diligence against what was happening, is there are when you go into a recession, there are a lot of competing forces. One of which being people immediately start trading out of away from home purchases into in-home purchases. And so what we saw at the time was an incredible surge of revenue that came from people that were no longer eating out, and their indulgence or their luxury to themselves was eating nicer in. So we saw this again with Rao's over the years that I was at Sovos. When people choose not to eat out because it becomes more expensive, or because you have COVID, a pandemic that keeps you in the house or whatever, they choose to upgrade their experience at home. So we really feel like we're going to benefit from that force, as well as just that tailwind that's in a lot of companies, a lot of brands like us in our sales right now, which is that make America healthy, or just that trend to health and wellness that people are undergoing right now. So we feel like those two forces will likely outweigh any impact that we would have. What I would tell you too is we have not taken price now in over 2 years, except on coffee. And we just did that, and we took a small amount relative to what the category is doing. And we've basically taken the position that we would prefer to grow volume and gross margin dollars rather than growing percentages or even holding percentages. And our percentages were quite high. As we mentioned, we had gross margin percentage up over 40%. I don't think that's sustainable. I think when you get up there, you invite competition. So our target, as we've called out, is to stay in the high 30s, but to grow sales rapidly, and therefore to grow gross margin dollars. We feel like that's the best path for us to long-term sustainable business and profitability. And so what you see right now is us investing into the category, into the coffee category, where commodity prices have been high. We have pushed volume. We have grown volume. We have grown gross margin dollars. And we've done it at the expense, very honestly, at the expense of some gross margin percentage. But for us, it's a small portion of our portfolio. A number of our peers are pure plays within coffee, and we feel like we can hold our breath longer than they can. So we're doing it very strategically. We're doing it very carefully. We operate, as you've heard, very judiciously from a financial perspective. And so we are constantly watching and understanding those metrics to make sure we're managing appropriately. But we see this as an opportunity for us to gain share, to gain volume versus competition that we feel will not be in the position to do what we can do.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, maybe a downturn in some counterintuitive way could be a source of new customer acquisition or growth for you, which is interesting. As you think about kind of growing into this trend of better for you products and kind of the health conscious consumer, do you view yourselves as more displacing a product in somebody's diet versus adding to someone's diet? And can you talk maybe about that dynamic along with what you're seeing on like the repeat customer metric or incremental order metrics, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say at this point in this country, hopefully no one's adding new products into diets, because we're certainly not caloric deficient right now. So I hope everybody is seeing themselves as replacing. We certainly are. We are, and that's how we've positioned ourselves. We are bringing, in a good, better, best type of mentality. We are bringing you the best. We're bringing you the most premium ingredients and the best products that fit into a health and wellness mindset, whole food oriented diet. And so, as you think about those coffee creamers, we're replacing, it's a huge category, as we called out previously, $9 billion. We're replacing hydrogenated seed oils, sugars, chemicals with whole food products that are just better for you, lower glycemic index, high MCT benefits, functional mushroom adaptogenic benefits. We're giving you a better morning, a better lifestyle, and hopefully, it's always hard to prove, but I think intuitively a lot of us would say a better lifespan, longer lifespan, and a better health span. So that's kind of how we think about it. In terms of what we see on repeat, we see very strong repeat. I mentioned previously that our DTC business is becoming very much a subscription-oriented business. About half of our sales in DTC now come from subscriptions. Our Amazon business is growing up towards that on a subscription basis. And what we see, obviously, we see 50% growth at retail, even as you're expanding to new distribution points. Typically, what you see is you get to more distribution points, your velocities come down because now people, the same shopper, can buy you in multiple places. We're seeing the opposite. We're getting to more points of distribution, more doors, and at the same time, velocities are going up. So we know that we're driving tremendous repeat as well as growing awareness and trial across our products with new consumers as well.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. So as you think about growing your distribution points, Amazon obviously is a big channel, maybe focus less on that with this question, but how do you sort of demonstrate the product and make sure that your partners know it'll be a good investment in terms of valuable shelf space? I'm curious if you can just add some color or provide some color on that, on the word of mouth, on, again, this, sampling, on getting it in front of people, and excuse me, how does that relate to kind of growing the distribution footprint?
Yeah, that's a great question, Adam. And really important to us, because as I mentioned, it's really just been the last 2 years that we put focus against that channel. We support our retailers as partners very well. We make sure that we are putting in appropriate trade. As Anya was talking before, why we don't measure against gross margin, because we are investing heavily into trade very selectively. We watch the returns against all of the activities that we do carefully, but we're investing into end cap displays, other secondary displays, TPRs or temporary price reductions to get more consumers to try your product, bringing it to an introductory price point that they're more open to as a non-consumer. So we make sure at the shelf we're winning. We also buttress that with shopper marketing activity that we execute with those partners, as well as some geofenced social and other digital media that we execute around those retailers. So we make sure that there is no shortage of marketing that is and trade that is in support of the products that we get there. But we also we watch very carefully as an executive team and with the sales team, what we call a quintile analysis, quintile report. So every month we pull all of the velocity data for us and all of our competitors by retailer, and we separate it into the 5 quintiles. We make sure that we don't have any products that are down in the Q4, Q5 space. And if anything slips into there, we put increased marketing against that to drive it back up to make sure that we're winning. It's very important to us that we are earning our shelf space and able to go take that story back to retailers. So when you go in and you show them those types of reports and show where you stand in the quintiles and that you're not down in that bottom 40%, you're up in typically Q1, Q2 space. That productivity is what they really care about. And when you bring that to them and show them how you're performing at other retailers, the light bulb goes off pretty quickly.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll ask one more question and then I'll pass it over to Olivier. So one of the interesting things about looking at your business is that despite your significant growth rates and what seems like really strong product market fit, the percentage of marketing as a percentage of revenue has actually decreased as you've gone on. And initially I thought, there would be some real challenges to marketing a line of products like this. You obviously have a leg up with celebrities as the founders and spokespeople for the business, which is very unique. But I'm curious if you can just talk a little bit about your marketing approach, as opposed to throwing money at it. You mentioned reducing spend by 2/3, I believe. So how have you gotten creative on the marketing side? What's working, what's not working? What are your expectations going forward? I'd love to maybe spend some time on that.
Yeah. It's, I'll tell you, it started with really implementing a new discipline around ROAS and ROI for all of our marketing activities. There had previously been expenditures that were not being measured, not being tracked, not being understood, not understanding, from when you look at the lifetime value of a customer, the gross margin of that product, and therefore the dollars that are being returned for what you're spending against gaining those customers. That discipline didn't exist. And so the first thing we did was to implement that and create a mindset around ROI and ROAS in the marketing department. As you said, Adam, we're really fortunate to be able to leverage Laird and Gabby. That wasn't being done in the years prior, and so we really flipped that script. Laird and Gabby they are incredible business partners, as I mentioned. They are they are the number one shareholder by number of shares across everyone. So including institutions and other investors, they are the number one shareholder. They are incredibly bought into this business. I'm on a call with them pretty much every day, if not in meetings with them directly. We engage them across product innovation. We engage them across marketing. And if you turn on Gabby Reese podcast, which is a phenomenal podcast oriented towards health and wellness, fitness, you'll hear on every podcast, Gabby talk about Laird Superfood. We took that podcast model, and created a partnership with Sean Ryan Show, which was extremely effective for us. And we're working with smaller podcasters as well that have demonstrated a strong return. And we've done, I would say, less influencer marketing, but more effective influencer marketing since then. Again, putting our dollars to where we know the community is really activated against our products. These are people that are searching for health and wellness oriented, whole food oriented products. And by virtue of that, we've really been able to connect to the right consumers, which becomes, and against, all of that, I would say, against a segmentation. We ran a segmentation model for the first time a couple of years ago, and you saw a little bit of that previously, but we have obviously very fine details which allow us to segment and target our marketing specifically to those folks where we'll get the best returns and be able to grow the business most effectively.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it's been very effective. So keep up the great work. All right, I will pass it over to Olivier for some questions, and then we can try to get in some from the audience if we have some time. So Olivier, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adam. Jason and Anya, thank you very much for taking some of my questions here. The first set of questions will be on the supply chain. You have had issues over the last couple of months, particularly in Q4 and potentially also in Q1. But I was very happy to hear on your last presentation at the Roth conference that you have secured 2 additional suppliers. And I would like to know if they have already supplied you some products, how big are they, and can they supply you for the next couple of years without having you any problems again on that front? And then also, how did you select them? Because I know that you were very picky on that, and it could take some time. I've heard from Vita Coco that for them it takes them anywhere between 6 to 12 months to select a supplier.
Yeah, great questions, Olivier. And there are a few in there, so if I miss anything, just redirect me.
I repeat.
So I'll start with the last. We did not need 6 to 12 months because we had been through a process recently where we went out and met, across Southeast Asia, where most of the coconut milk powder, especially the best coconut milk powder, comes from in the world. We met across a number of countries with a number of suppliers, a number of processors, and also understood their supply chain, where they were getting the coconut milk, the coconut milk from that they turn into the powder. So we knew at that point, we kind of stratified the list of suppliers, and it started out really just operating with one, knowing that we could always move to additionals, but we had one that we thought could supply us, for the foreseeable future, and that was expanding supply so they'd be able to cover us. But as I mentioned, we grew a little bit too fast last year, and specifically within those coconut milk powder products. And as a result, that coupled with the fact that their new supply came on, their processing came on a little bit slower than expected, there's a little bit of an issue there timing wise where we hit the out of stocks. And so we realized, we pivoted quickly, and we realized we needed to get additional suppliers engaged, and we worked our way back, pulling up that list, and we knew who our number 2 and number 3 suppliers were. We're fortunate to be able to start working with them immediately. So yes, product, we immediately pivoted and expanded that supply. The problem is not only does it take about, almost 30 days to get the product across the water, and then you get hung up typically for a few days in LA in the port, and then you have to transport it to your manufacturer. But you also have, they don't have that much coconut milk powder sitting there in their warehouse. You wouldn't want it, frankly, sitting there in the warehouse. It's hot and humid over there. So instead, what we had to do is wait for that product to come in, the milk to come in to be processed. So it just created a lag that led to those out of stocks that we had. But as we mentioned, we expect to come out of that, basically about now. We said late Q1 to early Q2, and so we'll have more to share on that over the next weeks when we announce earnings. But to your answer, yes, we've already executed an expanded supply chain.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. My next question is regarding your customer, actually. And have you done a survey on who is your customer, their age, gender, and income? And I'm asking you this question because I have a feeling that your products address a market of people in their late 20s, early 30s, and up to 60s. And I have the impression that you're completely missing out the Generation Z. And I was wondering, what are you doing to kind of attract that customer? And I heard on one of Gabby's last podcast, it seems that their eldest daughter is very good in cooking. So I was just wondering if you could potentially use her as well.
Yeah, Olivia, I love the insight there, and I'd say you're correct. By virtue of having a coffee orientation, we miss out on a lot of those young folks as well. They grew up, as you know, in a coffee culture that doesn't include coffee. You just have to go to a Dutch Brothers to see that phenomenon, and all the younger folks that are there that order drinks with caffeine that have no coffee in them. So we are thinking about our product portfolio rather holistically, and looking at how we can address some holes in offerings to that generation. We also, as you astutely point out, Laird and Gabby have very high Q scores. They're known, each of them are known by over a third of Americans across the country. But that skews older, and that's just by virtue of the folks that grew up watching them, or hearing Gabby on MTV, or watching her play volleyball, or Laird surfing. And the younger generations aren't as aware of who they are. And so we're doing two things. One is we are driving and really increasing relevancy of Laird and Gabby to that generation. I mean, you might be 24 years old, but you probably want to look like them when you're 60 years old. Gabby's not that old, but Laird is. And so I know I would like to, and I think a lot of them would as well. And so we're using new social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and Reels in particular on Instagram, to really push Laird and Gabby and their relevancy back to a younger generation. But at the same time, starting to look to fill that gap. And they do have a couple of young and beautiful daughters that at some point in the future could be more engaged in the business for sure.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. I would like to know now, coming on the food service side and hospitality front, have you made any kind of inroads recently there? And what is the strategy to address those pretty big verticals?
Yeah, that's that is on my mind constantly. So you think about food service, and we did just hire a food service leader. I think I mentioned on the last call. So we hired him about 6 months ago, and he came in, set the strategy. We outlined the areas where we think we can gain very quick wins, and then where we want to ultimately build a big strategic platform as well. And I'll tell you, you're very astute to realize the opportunity space there. It's huge. It's an enormous space, and our products fit very well. Our offering isn't exactly established for what it would need to be, and so we've been working to get single-serve packages built, and now you see those for creamers and for the instant lattes, and we're expanding that on hydration. And so we see real opportunity. If you think about airlines and hotels as a way to introduce the brand, not necessarily big profit drivers, but could be nice, really nice awareness and trial drivers that lead to a much bigger and stronger business. So we really like that space. We think that C&U is interesting, and probably offices maybe even more interesting. C&U, the allure of C&U is great, but kids, again, on campus drinking coffee, not sure that's the product set, but we think there's a subset within there. But office coffee in particular is a great one for us. And we've started to make some inroads already with a couple of the large tech campuses that you can probably guess your way toward. So we see that as a great space. Hotels, similar to airlines, just tremendous way to wake up and have a coffee and a creamer sitting there next to your Keurig machines. So I think you'll see more discussion on this, or I know you'll hear more discussion on this as we go forward from here, but it's early days within food service, but just a tremendous opportunity for us.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Thank you. I have a question now on your target of having roughly 100 million in sales over the next 3 to 4 years, as you confirmed at the Roth conference as well. And on that road to 100 million, you were saying you might have some acquisitions down the road. You have done a few in the past, of course, with in a much larger company. I'm not that fan, I have to say, at this level. For you to focus on acquisition, because I think you have so much low-hanging fruit, especially with the liquid creamers here. And the last acquisition that was done from the former management team, and not you and Anya, the Picky Bar, which was done a couple of years ago at 12 million, is not bringing any kind of fruits here. The opposite is kind of, if I may say, not going the right direction.
Yeah. So a couple of things in there. Yes, we did reaffirm our path, expected path to 100 million. I think that's a big number, an important number within the space. I think that's a number where you become more relevant to institutionals. You also become more relevant to other CPGs that look from M&A perspective. Not to say that would be something we'd be interested in, but that's just kind of a number that sticks in everybody's head. So that's in our head constantly. We do have a path to get there, as we mentioned, through organic growth. It is, I think, just a tremendous amount of opportunity, as you point out, to continue to expand our existing offering, as well as to kind of buttress that with the products that I've mentioned already. From an M&A perspective specifically, yeah, I do have experience. And yeah, you're also correct that's in larger organizations with more ability and bandwidth to be able to absorb. So for us, I will say, though, M&A is still interesting to us, but only in select circumstances. So if it added a capability, for instance, a food service business that we might be able to leverage Laird into or rebrand Laird to, or a set of products that are very closely aligned to what we do today that would give us expanded distribution into retail or additional sales into a channel like Amazon. But in the products that we're in now, with a path towards migrating that brand over to Laird, I think I would be interested in, because I think with scale comes a lot of opportunity to further build. Now you have more dollars that you can spend on marketing of that brand. Now you have a bigger team that you can launch into retail. So there's certainly benefits, and we're tipping toward where we get some of that scale benefit. So if there's a way to expedite carefully, judiciously, with good financial management and an understanding of the level of integration that would be required, and a path towards merging the brands, then I think I'd still be interested.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. And I have another question on the hydration sticks, and then I'll open it up to the audience here. You know that I'm a real fan of your 2 hydration sticks. I have them every day in my office. And I was wondering, what kind of strategy do you have here? Because with 2 SKUs, I think it is not enough to gain visibility and to be in all retail stores. And what's the strategy there? Because some brands have been able to grow quickly, like Liquid IV, which was sold to Unilever, Noon Hydration, which was sold to Nestle, and the other fast one was LMNT. I think your products are much, much better than anyone on the market. And I have a feeling that it's not on your priority list for the moment to grow that business. And for me, it's a pity, because I would like to see this grow much faster and have other flavors as well.
Yeah. It's a big untapped space, Olivier. You're exactly correct, and we have a natural food product that competes against literally packages of chemicals. If you turn over and read the ingredient lists, and so we need to figure out how to market that more effectively. It's hard. Negative marketing doesn't really work. I think that's been proven, and so we need to figure out how to amplify our voice in a very positive way. But as you say, we're short on products. We don't have a broad enough product line. Our products, by virtue of what I just mentioned, make it a little more challenging. So if we want to launch a pomegranate flavor as an example, we won't use any flavorings, not only artificial flavorings, which you do see on those products. We won't use natural flavorings either, because the dirty secret is, natural flavors is they're not natural. You start with a natural product and use a chemical extraction process, and that chemical residue is allowed to ride along with in this case, say, pomegranate flavoring. It would have the chemical residue, and you pump that right back out into your product. So we don't use that either. So what that means is we would use pomegranate powder and maybe find a couple of other powders that we can utilize to make the flavor taste great, but in a truly natural way. And it takes a little bit more time as a result of that. So I'll say we've been working on a couple of additional flavors. I'm sure you know, for the first time, we launched stick packs, I guess maybe a year and a half ago. And that took us into the single serve space, which is where the real volume for this product is. So you'll see us as we go forward continuing to build the portfolio in that single serve space of hydration. And as we get the marketing right, I agree with you, there's just a tremendous opportunity for us.
Thank you very much.
Is that it, Olivier? Did you wrap up?
I have much more, but I would like the audience to ask their question as well.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you go with one or two more, and then we can open it
Okay,
up.
perfect.
Or sorry, I'll get to some audience Q&A, and then we can wrap up from there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
On one of our last discussion, Jason, you mentioned that you would like to find a way to better tell the Laird story, showing customers your clean ingredients. Have you made any progress on that front? I mean, I've seen a lot of emails coming out of the company trying to tell the story. I think it is great for subscribers, but in store or on the packaging, how do you plan to show that to customers, that you have only natural ingredients, real ingredients, sorry, and very little ingredients?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Olivier. And you get there are quite a lot of our current consumers that will turn the pack over. They're back pack readers. But as we go forward, there's just a tremendous opportunity of people that are, as we were calling out before, health aware, health curious consumers that don't necessarily turn it over and read it and don't know what they're looking for if they do, and don't know why it's different if they do. So you're exactly right. Our marketing as well as our packaging will start to better communicate only 2 ingredients, or only whole food ingredients, or minimally processed. You just obviously have a lot of regulatory challenges with what you're able to say on packaging. So that one's a little bit more tricky than some of the other marketing communications. But we will continue to draw that message out. We have, one of the marketing initiatives that we'll talk more about in the future that I'm really excited about is leveraging our Boulder community here. We're based in Boulder, Colorado, which is one of the epicenters for health and wellness in the country and in the world, quite frankly. And we're really going to start testing messages here on billboards, on the sides of buses, in magazines, to really start to push awareness to a new level with a community that we know is very aligned to where we are. So we get some of that feedback quickly of what works, what doesn't work, and leverage it on a broader scale. So there'll be a lot more to come in that space, but it's something that's top of mind for us.
Okay, perfect. And finally, my last question here is recently you have launched your 25 Oz creamer, liquid creamer into Whole Foods. How many SKUs are there, and are you nationwide with them now?
Yeah, I think we're 2 SKUs nationwide. We just went through a transition with them, so we upsized the packaging, as you know, for all retailers. Took it from a 500 ml to a 750 ml. We just got that done through various transitions. It effectively took place from the beginning of the year, maybe even the last week of December until maybe a week or 2 ago. And so we'll start getting our first reads on how that's looking as we go forward. But as we called out then, we've had some nice expansions of distribution, gained stores within existing banners and gain new banners. And so we'll have more to share on that after the Q1 earnings come in. And we frankly don't have a really good read on how it's all going, but at Whole Foods, we're really pleased with the products that we have, and we think that there's an opportunity to expand distribution there as well.
That's all I had. Thank you very much, Jason and Anya.
Great.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Let's, if you guys are okay on time, we can ask a few questions from the audience
Sure.
and wrap it up. I'm actually happy to say that a lot of the questions that have come in, we've covered, which is great because we've covered a lot today. So you did talk about hydration, obviously creamers, et cetera. Would you say those are the products you're most excited about in development, or is there anything you can share that you're really looking forward to moving forward?
Yeah, coffee is really important to us as well. It's a crowded category, a competitive category, and frankly, one when I got here that when I mentioned you look for the 80% coming from the 20%. I thought that would be an area that I'd probably back away from. But we're seeing great success with it. I think by virtue of these beans that we carefully cultivate from high altitude areas in Central South America that are coming from organic, they're organic products coming from organic farms. It's a great product. And then you add the functional mushrooms and the benefits of those adaptogens, and we're just finding it's having great uptake right now with consumers. So coffee for us is a very exciting space as well. We're expanding our bars business, another one that I thought would be very challenging and tough to compete in, but what we're finding is that we have a very unique offering. We just have such a clean bill of ingredients, Adam, that consumers, as they come in and understand the product and know that they literally can eat any of our products and be operating within those guidelines of whole ingredients, functional ingredients, it just creates an opportunity for the brand across truly a lifestyle. And not there are almost no food brands. Every food brand wants to be a lifestyle brand. I don't know truly about any other brand really that can say that they've achieved that. And we, within the health, wellness, fitness community, we stand for that. And that's why we've been so successful in moving from category to category. And it's challenging. You don't want to go so broad that you lose track of your portfolio or create complexities that you can't manage. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we're pretty excited, frankly, about all the categories that we currently operate in.
Excellent. Is there a challenge to replicating or imitating products or competitors trying to maybe add mushrooms to certain things that they're offering, or have you thought about that from a competitive standpoint?
Yeah, we see a lot of competition in that space. Mushrooms are one of the top trends right now within the food space, and if you're a mushroom brand and you're not growing, there's something wrong. So I just tell you there is quite a lot, and that's why the two pillars that we have to stand on that others don't. One, Laird and Gabby, Laird Superfood being from Laird and Gabby and that authentic health and wellness positioning that they have. And then two, the very careful sourcing of all of those ingredients, knowing the farms that they come from, making sure that the attributes that we're selecting are important to consumers and are important to the health benefits that the food conveys. I think that's our long-term differentiation versus everybody else in space. So you can pick up anybody else's coconut creamer and try it next to ours, and I think you'll quickly understand what's different.
Excellent. Are you aware, by the way, that you were mentioned on a recent Joe Rogan episode, and he's a big fan of the products? I forget who the guest was, but you got a shout early on. I think it was in the first minute or so.
Yeah, it was Michael Keaton. No,
that's right. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, it was Michael Keaton. And and what happened, is Laird early on gave Joe some product and he loved it, and he ended up taking a machine on. And so for a lot of his guests, if not all of them, when they come in, that's what he serves to them. And it's great to have Joe's appreciation for the products. He from time to time throws out gratuitous thank you to us or call out to us. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, so that's I think that's obviously helpful with attracting maybe a younger demographic. And I don't know where you focus these days typically, or who the core customer is, or if it's just, kind of a funnel approach. But as you think about attracting younger demographics, how does that fit into kind of the age profile of Laird and Gabby, who are kind of maybe not in their prime as athletes anymore? If you want to kind of attract a younger, sort of more athletic consumer.
Yeah. That's where that TikTok and Instagram Reels advertising that I mentioned comes in. But we're also, we're working with various fitness influencers as well. So I'll just give one example. There's a gentleman by the name of Eric Hinman that's here in the Colorado community that's built up a really nice following. He is a High Rocks competitor and just a great person, great athlete, and consumers, or I should say his followers really look to him for fitness and food advice. We continue to seek out those authentic influencers that are in a younger demographic. Eric, I don't know how old he is, but he's probably a couple decades behind Laird and myself. And so, he's the type of person that we feel can help us to connect back to some of those younger communities of like-minded people.
Excellent. I will finish up with this question. So as you think about, we touched a little bit about this a little bit, but as you think about your career and building this brand and kind of similarities and challenges at LSF versus White Wave, can you just talk about the differences in brand building from, decades ago to today and kind of how you navigate that as kind of a differentiated, young, fast growing brand today versus what you did in the past?
Yeah. I think about it a lot. So I expound on this for a long time. Social and digital platforms, obviously, very different and can change the speed and the cost. You have to use them effectively and carefully because you can also throw a lot of money down the wrong hole. So that's where I mentioned that our stewardship, financial stewardship, is incredibly important. And so that's probably the biggest technological change that's taken place. There's a lot less impact from TV. Print is really lost a lot of its luster, but I think selectively you can find some very effective ways to market back to select communities through print today, especially if it has a print and digital combination, which most do. That's one area that I think you'll see us spending a little bit more focus and time. And then we are bigger on the experiential piece than we were at, for instance, White Wave. Experiential is tricky. A lot of times you'll get the immediate read and you'll say, wow, that didn't work, stop sampling. But you hit enough people through that sampling that over time virally talk to their friends about your product. And that's where the absolute best marketing comes from. Nothing is better than word of mouth marketing, especially for products like ours that are sitting in that premium space and truly life-changing dietary type of products. So for us, the testimonials that we get from folks that are really big fans of the business that's the gold mine. And we've not mined the gold mine, ironically. We've not gone out to those folks and set them up with additional products, free products to support the work that they do for us. So we're now starting to look down that avenue as well as an opportunity for, as I say, the most effective marketing we can do.
Excellent. Well, yeah, as I mentioned, it's been very effective, all of your efforts. So congrats on the success so far and looking forward to seeing what you can accomplish over the next few years. That's a great place to wrap it up. And I just want to say thank you again very much for joining us, for your time today. We covered a lot. This was really comprehensive. So thank you for all the color that you shared and for answering all of our questions.
Absolutely our pleasure. We love to be able to tell the story. It's a great story. We have incredible founders, and any chance we get to share that, we always love it and certainly appreciate all the support from all of you, and look forward to doing something like this again in the future.
Excellent. Well, we will distribute the recording when it's available via YouTube and on the site. And again, Jason, Anya, Olivier, thank you very much. This was great.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.